This episode is sponsored by Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/woodnessgoodness for a discount.
Hello, friends, family, foes, and fellow DIY enthusiasts. Welcome to Woodness Goodness, and welcome back to the shop build. For those of you who don't know, I've been building this 1,800 square foot space for this business that me and two of my buddies run called Automotive Aesthetic, where they detail cars and basically make cars that look poopy to groovy. So anyhow, the building was an absolute disaster. From the very start, this project had its serious difficulties. It took a very long time to ultimately show and prove to the company that they sent me probably the worst construction crew on this side of the Mississippi. I called lawyers, I called friends, I called family, I called on God. And well, they finally came and redid my entire building. Every single metal piece was replaced. The entire roof was redone, re-screwed, and redone. The moment the building was finally redone and to a point where I could look at it and be like, yeah, this will possibly last 20 years, I felt it was the right time to start insulating. And yes, jokes aside, the building is 1,000 times better. I mean, it's hard to put a finger on the right words, but it is downright beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So the moment the building was done and it was at a point where, yes, the roof wasn't going to leak just like it did the first time 3 days after a brand new building was complete, I felt it was necessary to start insulating because, well, we've been without a space, or we've been hoping to use this space for a long, long time. And so, well, we had to hit the ground running. So insulating it was. You may or may not know, I actually was able to collect about 4,800 square feet of 3-inch rigid ISO foam off a construction site where they were redoing the roof of a school. So bingo bongo, Daddy's got a bunch of insulation for free. The 3-inch rigid foam worked out perfectly because it fit between the studs on the back and the front wall, which are 3-inch thick. But the studs on my side walls are only 2 inches thick. We still made it work because I would slap 3-inch rigid foam between the studs, and then I would slip in 1-inch foam to cover those studs after the fact. I wanted to make sure that we didn't have any exposed studs. That way, any thermal bridging that was possibly going to happen was stopped in its tracks. So basically, the entire structure has 3 inches of rigid foam in the walls, and not a single part of the metal studs themselves are exposed to the inside of the building. Once the insulation was done and complete, I decided to reuse metal panels for the bottom section of my walls. I wanted to have a bit of a wainscoting, something that was fairly waterproof since we are going to be detailing cars in here. I wanted to make sure if it got any splashes on it, well, it would be waterproof. So once we insulated the 4 walls, called in the spray foam guys, and well, they did the spray foam of the roof. I called multiple companies, and the company that came top of choice, top of the list because of just how much information they gave me, the quality of the estimate itself, and the amount of information the guy gave me when he came and did it, they were an easy choice. Their website is in the link in the description. Their company is called Creative Conservation, and if you're in the Richmond, Charlottesville, Central Virginia area, definitely look them up for spray foam. At first they scared me because they put plastic tarp everywhere. It literally looked like they were about to commit a crime in here. Like that's how particular they were in terms of protecting things like my concrete floor and the interior walls. Even though the interior walls technically didn't have to be covered, they did it, and it was excellent. The first half of the first day, they put fiberglass insulation in the eaves and that way they could flash and bat so they wouldn't cram a bunch of spray foam in the eaves, possibly expanding it, possibly wasting product, and possibly damaging my roof. They also used canned foam in certain cracks, nooks, and crannies, just again to make sure that when they had higher pressure spray foam going into these places, it wouldn't expand and ultimately possibly wreck this metal. Because I mean, oh, I guess that felt kind of hard. The second half of the first day when the spray foam guys were here, they were able to actually start spraying. Because the temperature was still in the 40s, they had to go fairly slow because, well, you want it to stick. So they would do passes where basically they prime the surface, make sure there's a little bit of product there that's starting to set, and then they would come off and do a full swath or full spray load worth of spray foam. That sounds weird. Then the second day they were here, they finished up the spray foam. And again, as far as spray foam goes, most spray foam I've seen looks like a bunch of packing peanuts stuck to the ceiling. I had no idea spray foam could look this good. Yes, it's got a yellow hue to it. So once they were done, I waited a couple days, even though I really didn't need to because that stuff gets hard real fast. I left all the plastic down, which came in real handy. So thank you for putting all the plastic around here like a Dexter movie. And I was able to paint the ceiling. Well, this is probably better part of 8 gallons that I used with my paint sprayer. I bought a bunch of long extenders for my paint sprayer and used it. And even though it was wobbling around like an overripe banana, I was able to get the entire ceiling from basically without using a ladder. I used a ladder a couple times for the center where it's really high and to get some, different angles. But what you're seeing is 2 coats of black latex paint. So once we finished up putting 2 panels worth of metal on my sidewalls and back wall, it was time to strap. So I needed strapping because right now my sidewalls, the distance between those studs are almost 50 inches. And that made it difficult to figure out what I could mount to it. I knew I wanted to do some kind of plywood or OSB or some other type of sheathing from the top of my structure down to meet the metal, which would be a nice wainscoting. But I couldn't figure out how I would do it. But with strapping, it gives you multiple spots to nail into, and so that's what we did. So I used 1x4 fir stripping, or 1x4 softwood lumber, and essentially I would anchor that into each stud, and I would kind of stagger them so when I put up my vertical sheets of plywood or OSB, it would have multiple points to anchor into. The wall behind me, the wall that's not done, the wall that's not painted, that's where Dr. Woodness, me, fell off a ladder, nearly broke both his kneecaps, and the ladder's still on the ground. And that's why you only see 2 pieces of strapping up there. So I've yet to get the confidence back up to do that part, but don't worry, we'll get to it. So once the strapping was up on the one side wall and the entire back wall, it was time to start putting up sheets of OSB. I chose OSB because, well, the price point, it's $10. This building has cost me way more money than I ever anticipated, which is okay. You know, I think we're getting really good quality stuffs out of it, but I only have so much money. And so OSB it is. And for $10 a sheet, can't go wrong. If I have to replace it 5 years down the road, we will. But the plan was always to paint it so it would give even more protection from any moisture in the air. And this space is gonna have HVAC. And from what I can tell, the way I insulated it, there should be little moisture passing between these walls, hopefully. So we got OSB on the sidewall, OSB on the back wall. It's looking dialed. Next up, electrician. I hired an electrician to help me mount my panel and just hook it up because the power company won't run power all the way to my building because of the elevation change. So we put a temporary or H-post structure in which they will put the meter. So my electrician helped me. I dug the posts, I set the H structure itself, and we fed the wire, and this is gonna be getting 200 amp service, which will be awesome to have our own service, unadulterated power. Finally, the last update of this update video is I bought color matched screws. And boy, oh boy, does that make a world of difference. To give you an idea, for $75, I got 500 screws of charcoal gray and 500 screws of black that I'm replacing the old terrible looking silver galvanized looking screws that are on the exterior of my structure. And boy oh boy, does it ever make a difference. Roll the clips. Okay, so this is the stage we are now at. We've got OSB. For those of you wondering, here in the United States of America, this was, I don't know, like 40 bucks or 38 at the very least when it was like peak. I wanna say 2 years ago, give or take. It is now $10 a sheet. For those of you wondering, yes, plywood is a little bit more moisture resistant. Now, this building should be fairly airtight because I spent the time, money, and energy and almost died falling off a ladder. And so I'm not super curious. I am curious, but I'm not super concerned. We've got the metal down here. The reason we used metal down here is it's a nice little wainscoting because there is going to be water introduced in here over there, which is our wash bay. So I figured we'd use some of the leftover metal, and this is all reused metal because they had to redo the shop. You all know this saga. Anyhow, I have an 1,800 square foot building worth of steel outside the shop, and so I'm slowly using it here. We've got charcoal gray here, black on the back. So the metal actually comes down here. The OSB is anchored into the metal for this run and this run of screws, and then it's anchored into the strapping that I installed and almost died doing that wall. Now that wall is not complete yet, and so Graham, why are you painting? Well, I'm easing myself back into getting onto a ladder. I'm not really scared of it yet. I just want to make sure the ladder boogeyman isn't hiding around the corner waiting to pounce on me and break my other kneecap. So we're gonna paint today. That's what we're doing. So cue the music. Let's paint this wall here white. Boom. Bob's your uncle, baby. So anyhow, guys, I think that does it for this shop update video. Things are now moving slow again just because there's a lot of detail work. And, well, I've been injured for the past week and a half, nursing my kneecaps. After my knees started feeling better, I realized I did something to my shoulder too. So I'm just like slow moving. I'm trying to get to the property, but I don't want to overdo it. I'm just an old guy now, just a little old guy. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all the comments and support during this whole build process. Quite honestly, I wouldn't have been able to make it this far if it wasn't for you guys and your positivity and just, yeah, this has been a nightmare. However, we are now at that point where our nightmares are turning into dreams. The space is starting to really come together and look like I have always thought it was going to. So it's very satisfying to finally be at a point like this where I can tell you I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. Still got to do that wall. And the whole front wall still has to be done, but I need garage doors before I do that because he has to anchor everything into the studs themselves, so I don't want to put any wood or anything in his way. Oh, wow. Yeah. This space is coming together. Hope you guys like this little update video. I'll show you my bank account when this is all over, and we will do a cost breakdowns. I don't make enough money on YouTube to do anything that you see. Not at all, okay? But I do appreciate the likes and the subscriptions. So we'll see you on the next one. Love you all. Peace.
Squarespace is easily my favorite platform to build a website. It gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your website. Squarespace makes it possible to connect with your audience and generate revenue through gated members-only content. You can manage your members, send email communications, and you can even leverage audience insights, which is really great for many different kinds of businesses. Create a community on your Squarespace website. With powerful blogging tools, Squarespace extensions, you can even manage inventory, promote products, and streamline bookkeeping when you start selling stuff on your website. You can even display posts from your social profiles on your website. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/woodnessgoodness to save 10% off your purchase of a website or domain. Thanks Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and we'll see you on the next one.